Okay, let's get into something. Well, kind of weird, psychologically speaking. Think about, when a date or maybe just meeting someone new doesn't click. Usually we have pretty straightforward reasons.
Yeah, the standard stuff, their politics are just way off, or they tell some story about an ex and you just get this really bad feeling.
Right. Or maybe it's simpler.
Hmm.
Bad manners, no spark, the usual suspects. Those are the easy ones, the
Yeah,
understandable reasons we decide, nope, not for me.
exactly. We know how to handle someone who's rude or boring or just plain nasty. We've got a script for that. But what we're diving into today is much stranger. It's this baffling scenario.
Go on.
Imagine you're with someone, maybe on a date, and they're great, genuinely warm, they listen, they seem really emotionally together.
Sounds good so far.
But instead of feeling drawn in, you feel this alarm bell going off inside, like a really strong, almost physical urge to back away, maybe even feel a bit sick.
Yes. The paradox where niceness itself feels off-putting, repulsive almost.
Mm.
So this deep dive isn't about why we reject jerks, that's obvious. It's about this. Why does genuine warmth sometimes feel like a massive threat? Why do we get the ick, as they say, precisely when someone is being undeniably, conspicuously nice?
Well, the first thing to grasp is that this reaction, this repulsion, it isn't coming from a place of meanness. It's structural. It's a defense mechanism.
Uh,
It often stems from a character that was fundamentally built around, well, scarcity, emotional scarcity.
Scarcity, like not getting enough warmth or kindness early on.
Exactly. Your whole internal world, your way of operating might have been set up to cope really well with not getting what you needed, not finding reliable kindness or tenderness or real emotional satisfaction when it mattered most.
So it's like building a whole life system for drought conditions. And then when it finally rains, your system freaks out because it doesn't know how to handle abundance.
That's a great way to put it. You build this psychological fortress, right? Designed to keep disappointment out, to manage the lack. Your whole way of being is structured around coping without.
And then someone genuinely warm shows up.
And the fortress sirens go off because the core programming screams, this is unfamiliar, this isn't the environment I was built for. Danger.
So the character isn't defined by love received, but by the clever, maybe even brilliant ways it learned to survive without love. We mistake the defenses for the person.
Precisely. The internal world got organized around managing the pain of being let down, maybe repeatedly.
Okay, so that fortress, that history. I must have taught some specific lessons, right? Specific defensive strategies that get triggered when kindness appears. What are those?
Yeah, the material points to a kind of arsenal of these learned defenses. First one, learn to reject before you can possibly be rejected, the preemptive strike.
Get out before they can hurt you. Makes sense defensively.
Second, don't get fooled by honeyed words. Assume there's always an angle, always a catch. Cynicism becomes your shield against potential manipulation or eventual disappointment.
Okay, so reject first and be deeply suspicious. What else?
The next two involve these big internal shifts. Third, you basically trade hope for cynicism. Hope feels too risky, too vulnerable to devastation. Cynicism feels safer, more predictable. You know where you stand with cynicism.
Yeah, hope requires opening up, which is terrifying if you've been hurt.
Absolutely. And the fourth lesson. You trade vulnerability, that messy, real, unarmored self, for impregnability. You become the fortress, unreachable, bulletproof.
The goal becomes never needing anything or anyone, so nothing external can ever wound you again.
Exactly. You aim for total self-sufficiency, even if it's lonely.
And that's why the kind person is so threatening. They don't just challenge the defenses, they sort of suggest the entire fortress might be unnecessary.
Precisely. They threaten the whole life structure, the decades of effort poured into building those walls.
Which brings us back to that physical feeling, the nausea, the ick, the repulsion. If it's not really disgust at the person, what is it? You said it's structural.
We really need to reclassify that emotion. It's easy to label it disgust because that feels like a judgment on them. But the research suggests it's not disgust, it's fear.
Fear. That sounds intense. How does a nice person trigger actual fear? Enough to make you feel sick.
It's the fear of having to change, fundamentally. The fear that accepting this kindness might mean you have to dismantle everything you built for survival.
You mean taking down the fortress?
Yes,
Yeah.
shedding those defenses, giving up the safety, the known quantity of isolation and suspicion, and trusting that maybe life doesn't have to be as cold or scary as your past taught you it was.
Wow.
Okay.
So the prospect of having to rebuild your whole internal world, your whole way of relating, that's so massive, the body just reacts.
The body reacts physically, nausea, wanting to flee. It's a primal survival response kicking in, saying, this change is too big, too dangerous, go back to what you know.
Go back to safe suffering. Because your brain is basically shouting, accepting this kindness means losing my armor, and without my armor, I might face that original pain again, the one I worked so hard to bury.
Exactly. Abort mission. Return to the familiar territory of managing disappointment.
You know, connecting it like that, it really changes how we think about resilience, doesn't it? We talk so much about getting through hard times, navigating misery.
And honestly, we're pretty good at misery. We've had practice. We know the landscape of suffering. We can navigate pain.
Misery is almost comfortable in a weird way. It gives us stories, dark humor, ways to bond. Turning dating disasters into funny anecdotes is easier than handling things going right.
Awful is predictable. Awful is safe in its own messed up way.
But contentment, actual stable emotional contentment.
That's the real challenge. That demands something much harder psychologically. It requires you to actively, consciously unclench those muscles of suspicion, to give up your reserves of fear and cynicism.
It's not just managing pain, it's actively choosing trust. Over and over.
Yeah. Which is way harder. It means letting down your guard, willingly.
So this flips the script on risk in dating, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The real perceived risk isn't that the person will turn out to be awful. We kind of know how to deal with that.
The truly terrifying prospect is that they might actually be consistently kind, unblemished, and sweet.
Because that would mean everything we thought we knew about relationships, about safety, might be wrong.
It really takes a deep sense of security, maybe from a fortunate background, maybe hard one later in life, to just allow for the possibility that love might actually work out this time, to countenance that maybe it doesn't have to end in flames.
Accepting that means challenging your most basic assumptions about how the world operates, especially if your baseline assumption is love equals pain.
Right, so if genuine contentment feels too threatening, too destabilizing, what do?
We sabotage. We find a way back to the familiar discomfort. How does that usually play out when faced with that nice person?
Oh, it gets specific. You start looking for flaws, magnifying tiny things. There's this huge temptation to accuse them of something, anything, to justify that feeling of needing to escape.
So you label them boring. Or too nice, like that's a crime. Soppy.
Exactly. Or you make these cutting remarks totally out of proportion about really insignificant stuff.
Like the way they hold their fork.
Yeah.
Or you decide their taste in music reveals a fundamental character flaw you just can't abide.
Or you analyze their text messages for hours, searching for proof of shallowness or some hidden agenda in their punctuation choices. You're basically desperately trying to inject some negativity, some drama, some suffering into the situation to make it feel familiar.
To make it feel real, according to your old map.
But we have to get enough insight, into our own histories, our own difficult paths to see what's really going on. The real issue isn't them. It's that these kind people are dangerous because they threaten not to make us suffer.
Not to make us suffer in the specific familiar ways we've come to expect. Suffering is necessary to feel like we're really in love.
We've mixed up intensity with intimacy. If our early experiences of intensity were painful, we subconsciously look for that pain signature as proof of real connection.
So rejecting the nice person isn't about being mean or having bad taste. It's not even rational judgment sometimes. It's just we've had so little experience of sustained, reliable kindness that our internal alarm system flags it as unreal, a dangerous fantasy.
Precisely. It's self-preservation based on a faulty prediction. This feels too good, therefore it must be fragile, therefore it will lead to an even bigger crash later. Better bail now.
Okay, so bringing this home for you, listening. The next time that ick feeling descends when someone is being genuinely kind, that weird physical get-me-out-of-here feeling, we want you to pause. Just stop and try to classify it. Ask yourself, is this actual disgust at something objectively bad? Or is this the sound of my old armor rattling? Is this fear?
And maybe, just maybe, try turning away from that initial impulse to flee or find fault. Just for a moment. Don't make the cutting remark. Don't zoom in on the insignificant flaw. Just try to witness their kindness without needing to immediately dismantle it.
Think of it less as finding the one and more as starting a different kind of adventure, an internal one. The adventure of believing that maybe, just maybe, genuine closeness and contentment could actually be possible for you.
It leaves us with a pretty profound question, doesn't it? Maybe the greatest psychological bravery isn't about enduring pain, which we're all pretty practiced at.
Maybe it's about having the courage to accept happiness. to tolerate contentment.
Something to mull over until our next deep dive.